Welcome to the Three Old Goalies podcast. The Three Old Goalies podcast is brought to you by thesquad.com. That's the squad with a W.com. Music for the Three Old Goalies podcast is provided by the Floodgate Operators. Be sure to check out their new album, available for download on Spotify. Have your earmuffs on the ready as parental advisory is encouraged. The Three Old Goalies is not meant for goalkeepers under the age of 17 years old. Now I turn it over to EV.
Okay, well, welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest episode of Three Old Goalies, produced by Ryan Sparks, and we have our usual panel tonight. Greg Deutsch from Cincinnati. Ryan Sparks is in Cincinnati as well. Go Bengals. Greg Deutsch from Cincinnati, who's one of our founders of Three Old Goalies, as a matter of fact, along with John Boa, a charter member of the Three Old Goalies and an old goalie himself. Myself, EV, and tonight we're joined again by Greg Raber. He's in Cincinnati. We got a Cincinnati-esque panel today, but we have a special guest tonight that we've been trying to get on for a while, and he unfortunately had COVID a little while ago, but he's over that now. Roland Paiva is joining us, and Roland is not an old goalie. Matter of fact, as I said earlier, Roland is a scourge of goalkeepers everywhere because he played in midfield and sometimes up front, and was a set piece master because Roland has, not many people know this, Roland has like a size 3.5 foot, and so he can make the ball knuckle and all that stuff. And you ask any goalkeeper, they don't want to deal with that stuff. So welcome to the group, Roland. We appreciate you joining us. And welcome to the rest of the panel. Hello, boys. Hope you're all well.
Yeah, we're good. Thanks for the invite, guys. I'm sorry I missed it last time, but happy to be here. I think we'll share some good stories and have some good laughs.
Warms my heart to see Roland.
Yes, Roland is a character.
Thanks, John. And John, you look chic, man. You look good. Yeah, you look like you're modeling for GQ.
He always shows up for these things all fancied out. Like he's got his makeup on and everything.
When I showed up to Duke, when I was an 18-year-old Mississippi boy, Roland took me under his wing and protected me from all the abuse. And he and I drank a lot of beer together.
Yeah, well, and you know, we were, before we got on air, we were talking a little bit and telling some stories. Roland in 1978, actually January of 79, played in what was called back then the Senior Bowl, which would take the best players from all the colleges across the United States. And I think at all division, wasn't it, Roland?
I'm sorry, what was that?
I think the Senior Bowl at that time was all divisions, right? It was the best seniors from all divisions of,
all divisions,
D1, D2,
yes.
D3. Yeah.
And
so,
yes.
And so Roland was invited to play in that and participated in it down in Florida with, and I don't know if he played against him or with him on the same team, but a guy that we've had on the show before, we like to call him a friend of the show, Dan Gaspar, was a goalkeeper on that group. And Roland has coached at every level of soccer in the United States. He's coached collegiately, he's coached club, he's coached professionally, he's been a GM professionally, he's been a director of coaching for what is now the largest youth club in the nation. Was back then it was Castle. Today it's known as NCFC. So we're thrilled to have him here. And we originally, and maybe this is a good way to start off, when we had planned to have Roland on for the World Cup review episode, Roland is originally from the Azores and, of course, is a Portugal fan. And I wanted to get his, if you could, Roland, give us sort of your thumbnail review of, your feelings with the Portuguese team this year's past World Cup or last year's World Cup.
Too many distractions, Yeah, it was kind of too bad because we had a boatload of talent. I think the Ronaldo situation didn't help. Had nothing to do with the Portuguese team, but still, the baggage that he brought to that stage was not good.
Not good.
and I think the team suffered a little bit of cohesion there. I was never a fan of Fernando Santos, the coach. I thought he was a little bit outdated. He was dedicated, patriotic, and did his best. But, I felt there was something missing from the get-go, and it was coming from the leadership team. And then you bring in the baggage that Ronaldo brought. I mean, it was hard to be real tight, I mean, they lost to South Korea in their third game, and I didn't think that was a good thing for the team. And then they suffered the next game, and that was it. So anyway, it was okay. I think we still have a good group of players, and I think we'll do okay next time around. There's a lot of young guys coming up. You take
that Hal Felix kid on the left. Whew.
Yeah. And then also the young kid, the 19-year-old from who's playing for AC Milan, I think. I can't remember his name. He came in late a couple of times, but he was good. He was really good. So anyway, that's how the ball bounces, and that's why you play the game, to see who can outlast the other. So we didn't make it this time, and I think that's the end of Ronaldo as far as the world stage goes. But I think he'll still make a lot of noise where he's at now, and
a lot of money.
Yeah, a lot of money. And who knows what's going to happen there? I mean, the same people that own that team also own Newcastle.
Mm-hmm.
And Newcastle is in the hunt for a Champions League spot. I mean, they're second in Premier League right now. I mean, they still have half the season to go, but if they get in the top four, they get in the Champions League. Does Ronaldo get loaned out to Newcastle, or is that not even in the playbook?
100%, he gets loaned out to Newcastle.
Yeah, but what does that do to their chemistry? To me, it immediately puts those guys that have been there and earned the spot into a situation where they're like, great, they bring in this guy. He's been a distraction for the last 3 clubs that he's been at. Like, do we really want to add that into the mix?
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. I don't know if you do that or not. I think it depends on what kind of players are there. I mean, I don't see any players at Newcastle who have the same size ego that Ronaldo does. So there may be room for that.
Is there anybody playing the game that has the same size? That's it. That's exactly where I was going to go. There is no one in this world that has that size ego.
Right. Okay, so will he actually be a distraction, or will he be an incentive? I don't know. Who knows? Nothing like hindsight. But
right. Yeah. Hey, Roland, give us your thoughts on this just announced over the weekend. Roberto Martinez looks like he's going to be the new Portugal manager.
Coach. Yeah, going forward. I saw that. I didn't know if that was already a solidified thing. I mean, has he signed that he is going to be the coach, or is that?
It's a verbal. I don't think he signed. That's what I've read.
Yeah, he's a very disciplinarian, and I think at that level, man, discipline is so important to control those egos. I mean, look how much trouble Ronaldo got in with Man U. He wasn't falling into that discipline, that team discipline that everybody was having to go through.
Yeah, that sounds all good and dance, right? However, look what happened with Belgium. So what's the thought process with that?
I don't know. That's De Bruyne. De Bruyne says we're too old. I don't know what happened with them. Okay. They do have a bunch of old guys. So, right, they're good, but they did have a bunch of boring guys. You didn't see much of a spark coming out of those guys at all. Mm-hmm. So,
but I wonder if it's the pressure of being ranked number 1 or number 2, going into the World Cup.
Yes,
that's. I mean, none of us have ever played at that level, but it's hard to think that doesn't sort of affect you. Particularly when things aren't clicking and things aren't going your way. You've got that. You're not playing well, number 1. Like you said, Roland, as De Bruyne said, he thought they were too old. number two, and number three, you got the added pressure of people. They were one of the favorites, one of the heavy favorites to win the World Cup. Yeah,
high expectations. Yes.
Yeah.
So back to Martinez, Roberto. I hope he's a good. I think he's a good, hardworking, knowledgeable coach. But that doesn't mean that he's going to be successful with Portugal. He was very successful when he was with Wigan. And then from there, where did he go from there? Did he go straight to Belgium from there?
No, he went.
The manager Martinez.
Yeah.
I thought he was like Everton and.
Yeah, he was with Everton or one of the
Okay.
One of the clubs that was sort of not top four, but in that next group. I can't remember. Yeah.
And then he was in the studio for a long time.
Right.
Yeah, he sure was.
He was very good at it, by the way. He was very good at video.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Swansea, Wigan, Everton, and then Belgium.
Yeah. Okay.
So John Bush, another FOS friend of the show, his buddy who he worked for at Hibernian was Martinez's number one assistant for Belgium.
That's right. That's
so
right.
So they hired him to go to Hibernian, and he hired Bushy to be his goalkeeper coach in Scotland.
Yeah, a little shout out to John Bush. You got a job finally. He's back in the USL, which I talked to Bushy a little bit the other day when he was with Greg, and Greg can probably comment a little bit more about it. But congratulations to John Bush. He's with the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. He's already started. He's back with under Coach Bob Lilly. So maybe Greg Raber, how about a little up to date? How's John feeling about this and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, John spent the weekend here with us and just came to check in on stuff, but he's in a great situation, and Bob is obviously a pro's pro of a coach, and I think he's in the best spot he could be. On the heels of the Hibbs situation and, all of that with Maloney, and you just talking about Tito Martinez and all that. But I think John's doing great, and he's really excited about where he's at, and we're excited for him. I think it's a great opportunity. It's a really good club. They've got a brand new facility. They've got a good team, and I honestly think, and E and I spoke earlier, I think he's going to do really well there. So we're excited for him.
All right, back to you, EV.
Well, just I think it's I think he'll I'll just follow up a little bit on Greg, and then we'll go to probably the meat of the show tonight. But I think Bushy, I think he kind of learned. He played for 21 years as a pro, and was obviously an excellent goalkeeper. And if you play 21 years as a pro in any sport, that's kudos to you. I mean, that's something that not many people can do at any level. And I think what he really learned and what he's still learning is the difference. And we'll have him on here within the next couple of episodes. But what he's learning is the difference between playing and coaching is huge. And we've all heard of guys who were great players who maybe weren't the greatest coaches, and we've all heard of guys who weren't great players who became good coaches. So it's two different games, coaching and playing. And I think he's begun the journey in his coaching days, similar to the journey that he began when he was playing in the minor leagues. And I think at some point we'll see him up in the MLS. I know he's done some work with some of our youth national teams as a goalkeeper coach. So I think I think it's a new journey for him. And I think, as Greg said, he's sort of in the right place right now to start that development. Maybe Hibbs was not too much to bite off, but maybe wasn't the perfect situation for a guy stepping into coaching right after finishing playing.
Well, and I'm going to jump in and preface that Hibbs is not exactly the most stable environment either. I think they've got a little bit of a cowboy owner, and that didn't help. And so I don't think him and Sean really got a decent shot out of the gate, to be fair. So
not at all. They've had two more groups come and go since
right.
then.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, he did it, and I think it was the break of a lifetime if you catch lightning in a bottle. But in that environment, the chips were stacked against them, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Well, and he's taken over a goalkeeper group that's very, very young in Pittsburgh, in my mind. He's got 3 keepers there, all born in 1998, right? So, all of them, 25, 26 years old coming into the season. So
That's going to
but
change.
That'll
yeah,
change. They're gonna sign
Yeah.
somebody.
They're going to get younger.
Okay.
I think they probably bring in maybe 2 more guys to take a look at and kind of go from there. But Silva, Waite, and Vosvik, all 3 of those guys, very different keepers from what I've seen. But I think that's a good situation for Bushy for sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's a great setup.
And just something to keep, keep your eye on. Another friend of the show, Evan Newton, who has big ties to John Bush. Don't be surprised if all of a sudden Evan Newton is over at Pittsburgh. So that's how things go, particularly in pro soccer in the United States. So okay, so
Nice segue.
let's get to the meat of the question, the meat of the subject of the podcast tonight. And what I would like to do, with your guys' permission, is let's address the how shall I say this? Let's address the Reyna's versus Berhalter versus U.S. soccer situation. And starting with you, Ryan, just give me and we'll go around the horn here with, just give me your impressions of this whole situation.
But before we do that, EV, I just want to let the people watching this and listening to this, let them know to sit back, because I know you have a lot on your mind that you want to get out tonight. And I was privy to listen to some of it earlier in the week, and there's a lot that you want to rant about. So I think people should be aware of how funny some of this stuff's going to be that you're thinking. So sit back and enjoy this one, folks. And by the way, shout out to Becky Burley, University of Florida. I know she's going to be at the convention. She's friends with people on this show. So, Becky, I hope retirement is going well for you. Back to you, Ryan.
All right. So I said earlier this week that this whole situation with U.S. soccer feels like a really bad episode of Days of Our Lives. It feels very, very soap opera-esque to me. I mean, you've got people that have known each other for 30 plus years that can't seem to have a conversation with one another and kind of going around and like telling on their friends, I just feel really uncomfortable with the whole thing. But it made me think, like, no matter what level, like, mom and dad are always pissed that their kid's not getting enough playing time. I think that there's a lot that can be said or done. I feel like if U.S. soccer had some different leadership, or any leadership for that matter at this point, this situation would have been handled much differently. I threw a couple names out there on Twitter, and I got blown up a little bit by a few people, but I felt like if Kyle Martino maybe had been in charge, and I know that was like 2 elections ago, in the grand scheme, maybe it gets handled a little differently, or Eric Winalda even. I listened to the Winalda show like every afternoon on my way home from work with him and Tony Miola on Counterattack on satellite radio. And they were going back and forth about it for a good chunk of time during the actual press conference and trying to get information in. The whole thing just has me super pissed off, because I think, like, if I have a situation that goes down or went down in my past, like and we worked through it with my wife, or, the girlfriend at the time, like, and everybody was involved. Everybody knew what happened, but we had gotten through it and we'd worked through it. It's nobody else's business at that point to me. I feel pretty strongly that the Reynas were out of line in this case and throwing that out there, especially given that Berhalter, like that, they had already dealt with the situation, and I mean they got married years later, right? And everybody that watches and listens to this knows that I don't like Greg Berhalter at all. As a coach, like I just don't like what he's done with the team. But I think in this case, like the Reynas were definitely wrong.
All right, Ryan, some questions for you. Get this group really going here. You're aware that the Reynas had a meeting with Berhalter to discuss, quote, Gio's role, right?
Right.
Now,
Yep.
They also do that with other players, right, EV? Hank has mentioned that. That's what, when you're selected, that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
So where do you feel, Ryan, that, was he the only player that was really said that you're not going to play? Who knows, right? And then obviously talk about your feeling of Berhalter at the press conference, what he said.
I guess my concern for the whole situation with like the conversation they had before they went to play was like, I really question whether Berhalter went to Zach Steffen initially and said, hey, we're wanting to bring you on this team, and this is how much playing time you're going to get, i.e., you're only going to get to play if Turner gets hurt. Right? And then he decided not to use him. I don't know if that happened, but I would not be surprised if that was the case. And I think you have that conversation with the players and where their role is before you go. Right? I think Berhalter was in the wrong by essentially calling Gio out at that conference that he was at. It was actually like a coach's conference or something. It wasn't an actual presser, but where he said we had an issue with a player, he wasn't holding up his end. And there had already been rumors that was the case. So he pretty much just put it out there. Again, there's a lot in this. Like it goes back further than just this set of the World Cup. And I know some of you guys will kind of chime in on that, but I just think as a parent, when your son's 19 years old, yes, he's young, but he's a grown-ass man.
And a pro, right?
Right, he's a pro. Yeah, he's not. Yeah, he's
right?
playing
it's not
professionally.
Like he plays, for some scrub team.
Well, it's not like my 17-year-old who's playing club and I'm asking questions, right? Like this is a situation where the guy plays in the professional ranks. If he has a question for the coach or anybody within U.S. Soccer that he wants to ask the question to, I think he has the right to ask those questions, and they can tell him to piss off if they want, right? Or they can sit down and have an honest conversation. But his parents did not need to be involved in the situation.
Do you feel, Ryan, that, if it's true, they were going to put him on a plane and go home? Do you think that was what they should have done?
Part of me says absolutely if the guy wasn't doing what he was asked to do and he didn't fix it, to send him home. But if they felt like he fixed it, then maybe he shouldn't have been sent home. To me, it seems like they didn't send him home, not necessarily because he fixed what they asked him to do, but because of the relationship that the coach had with his parents, and he didn't want to have to deal with it. Like if he sent him home, how much faster would all of this information gotten out there?
Very true. Roland, what's your take on what's your thoughts on this?
My thought on this, I've tried to come up with a tag name for it, it would encompass everything. So the only thing I could come up with was Soccer Americana is what went on there. I mean, talk about no other place in the world do parents call the coaches and bitch about playing time.
No.
Ding, 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 ding.
Or other sport.
Or other sports, yeah. But, I think here in this country, we hear a lot about other sports, softball, baseball, tennis parents, lacrosse parents. They're just as bad as soccer parents. They're just not as big. Okay. And I think Now, I'll disagree with you, Ryan. I'm a fan of Berhalter. I'm not his greatest fan, but I believe in him. And this is the main reason why I believe in him. I think he wasn't just coaching American soccer players. He was coaching our country to be seen globally. And he was doing a good job at that, just changing the culture away from these fucking parents to call in and bitch about their kids' playing time. I think that's what he was doing. I don't think he was doing that particular thing, but in the grand scheme of things, he was changing our culture to not be exactly like that. And it was terrible what happened. It's terrible. He probably will not get rehired, and Gio is probably never going to play on the national team again. If they hire him back, does he go bring Gio back, and what's that going to look like? If they don't hire him and they bring in Zidane, who's already declined, will he bring Gio in? Because with Gio comes the Reynas.
Baggage.
Baggage, right.
Baggage.
So, and with Berhalter, he's bringing baggage now too.
Right.
So, and then you look at the administration who's now on the spots, okay? What do? Do we piss off a bunch of sponsors by bringing him in who might not want to be associated with, an abuser? Which I really liked how you started the conversation, Ryan. You admitted that I'm not a Berhalter fan, but you were sticking up for him for what happened. That was a private matter between two individuals growing up, college freshmen, drinking in a bar, yelling at each other for whatever reason. They start pushing each other. It goes outside. There's screaming going on. She's probably swinging at him, and he's trying not to hit her. So he kicks at her to knock her feet off and go on the ground, the slow thing. I don't know. I'm just making that up right now.
Right.
But it was bad. It happened.
It's bad, but it also happened 30 years ago. They've worked through whatever, right?
Right. So talk about...
It's nobody's business. It's nobody's business.
Right. But talk about that they mended. They healed from that.
Right.
And they got married and raised 4 kids, and they've been successful. That should have never been brought up. But it was. So now we're having to deal with it. So it's really too bad, man. It's really too bad. It was no one else's business, like you said, Ryan. And yet a parent, and it really sucks that parent was, both those parents, Mendoza, that's soccer royalty, man. Those guys grew up together. They played competitive soccer together, high levels, NCAA national champions.
Go buy him a beer.
Buy him a beer?
Go talk to each other.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's it. That's my whole question. The whole situation is, if you're really that bent out of shape over it, you should be able to have that conversation between friends.
Call him. Use your phone.
You have his phone number. Y'all played together at club growing up.
Yeah. They know each other very well.
You know each other really well.
Yeah. So there's going to be more fallout from this. What's going to happen to Claudio now? He's the director at FC Austin. What are they going to look like there? What's going to happen to him there?
Roland, you've been in these not in this situation, but a general manager situation of a pro team. Do you keep him on staff? Because how can anyone trust this guy, right? That's got to be the first thing.
Yeah, but he's above the general manager, isn't he?
He's director of player.
Reyna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he could probably get away with it easier than what Berhalter would getting back on. I really do. Because Reyna's kind of a behind-the-scenes guy. He's not the face of the team.
Yeah, but do you still think he'll have the trust in that organization?
Not as much.
Not as much.
Yeah.
And do you feel Berhalter should be hired back?
Yes, I do. Personally, I think he had something really good going. We're not going to win the World Cup in 26 either, but he had something really good going about changing how the world perceives us.
What do you feel about losing the locker room because of what happened with Gio? Hey, what stays, in here should stay in here, and then publicly, unfortunately exposes it. How do you earn the trust back?
How does Berhalter earn the trust back? I don't think he should have ever lost trust.
But he did, though, right?
Because that would have never come into play.
Right, but it did, though, right, with this action.
Yes. And look what he did, man. The only person who came out and told the story was him. It was him. No one else told the story about what happened with him and his wife. He's the only one that told that story because he knew that somebody was going to come out with it to try to knock him down. So he stepped forward and volunteered that information.
Yeah. Well, like you say, he almost had to. And unfortunately, in the case with the press conference, once you opened your mouth and exposed Gio, there goes the locker room.
Yeah, well, one faction that we haven't heard anything from is the players. Players. What do they think? Would they support Gio? Would they support Berhalter? Would it be half and half? There's always going to be some unhappy guys on the team that just don't get enough playing time.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Greg Raber, what's your take on this?
Yeah, so I think Roland had a great perspective. I want to take a step back too. With all of this going on, and the words have been thrown around, say blackmail and threats, and you're talking about two first families of soccer in the country, he still got him out of the group. Like, that's pretty remarkable knowing what we know now. And so while I'm not like a huge Berhalter guy, I mean, my opinion is I think, I grew up with Taylor Barrett sent me a Claudio Reyna signed poster that sat on my wall when they won 4 straight national championships. There's no one that thought more of the guy than me. But the family stuff hits home, and I think that's wrong. I think putting personal knowledge out there was very wrong. I think it's a bad look on the Reynas. And the victim here is Berhalter's wife because she didn't ask for any of this. And I think that's just dead wrong. If you ask what kills me more than anything in this whole situation is the silence out of U.S. soccer, other than we hired a third-party law firm to do a deep dive. Nope, let's get some leadership. Let's get in front of this and say, we're going to vet this. We don't agree with, things being aired in a public forum, whatever. Say something. Be at a podium. And so that's disappointing. If you made me king for a day and say, how would you fix it? I would ban the Reynas for life. I would ban Gio for a year, and I would give Greg a 2-year contract and see if they can't mend fences in a year, because I do think Gio is going to be important to the team moving forward. And unfortunately, with anybody that has asshole parents, and no one can speak to that better than I, you can't come back from it, even though it's not your fault. And so, I hope the kid gets a fresh shake, because, I get back to Berhalter. At 18 years old, if there were camera phones and there was social media and everything,
we'd all be screwed.
How many of us would have a job, right?
True. I can honestly say with you guys, I can tell you right now, we'd all be screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it wasn't still around, and I still got screwed because I was such an epic idiot. So I'm just saying, that's not fair to drudge something up 30 years ago. And that's how if you said, hey, king for a day, what'd you do? Gio gets a year, Reynas for life, and then gave Greg a 2-year deal. And if it slides a little bit, then so be it. But if they don't come out of this a bit heavy-handed and the Reynas look like they're pulling the strings, then I don't know what coach would ever want this job, because at this point you're a figurehead.
Hey, Greg, why a 2-year deal? Go into that, because there's nothing at stake right now. You're in the World Cup, right? I mean, we've qualified along with Mexico and Canada. So share what the interest in a 2-year deal. What does it get us?
I think because a 2-year deal gets to see if you get the locker room, if you lost them or you didn't lost them, because there's unknown variables here, right? To your earlier point, I think, Roland, you said it, is what do the other players think? Because they're really quiet right now. And so what does the room look like? What do the players look like? The pipeline behind the late teens to the early 20s, like what's coming and what can Greg do with them? But in 2 years, it's a go or no go, or you pull the ripcord, open the checkbook, and find a mercenary to come in and fix the thing. Like an old school Bora. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. But
that's where a 2-year deal.
Know that? Greg? Do you really think you're going to know if you have that in 2 years? Because again, nothing's at stake. You make a mistake, so what?
I haven't coached I coach U8 girls, but I haven't really played or coached at note.
You fit right in.
And I can walk to a field today and watch a kid put on their boots and know if they're worth a damn. And I think every player knows that about a coach.
Fair enough.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You can tell this guy, man. He's somebody's dad. He's not a coach.
Right.
Hey, I'd like to say something about. First, I need to get my names straight here. Rayburn. That's your last name.
Correct.
What's your first name?
Greg. That's why we got the Deutsch and Raber conflict going here.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, Greg.
But they both spell
How many
Greg
G's
with
in
one
that?
G. At the end.
1 G?
1 G at the end, yeah.
1 G at the end. Not 2.
No.
Oh
Yeah, our names aren't up this time, Ryan.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Ryan.
I've been popping them up and taking them down. It just says Raber for Raber because
Okay.
it's whatever you guys put in. So
2
Raber.
Gregs, 1 cup.
Raber said something earlier while he was talking that brought me back to this comment, which I think was what he was saying was right on. Okay? He was talking about banning the Rainers. He was talking about temporary rehire. Let's see what this leads to. And this is how I read that. First order of business is you lead by example. So
First thing they teach you at West Point.
Lead by example. How do we fix this in a positive way? Okay. How do we move forward without dragging anything else with us?
Yep.
So I thought that was good. That was real good. You'd make a good mediator, man. That was good. I was impressed with that.
Thank you. It's all the time I spent in court as a kid.
Anyway,
all right, John. Before we go on, I thought, what happened to John Dangerous Boa? What happened?
He changed his middle name.
Because of everything that's been going on, and being a history guy and loving Russian history, I had to change my middle name to Potemkin and explain, if anybody doesn't know what a Potemkin village is, we are living one with this U.S. soccer fiasco. But Mr. Chairman, I'm going to have to yield my time to the goalkeeper guru from Tennessee because I hit this pretty hard in the global around the world of football segment. So I will defer to Mr. Vaughter.
All right, Eric V. EV, I know you got a lot of stuff. You got some funny stuff. I hope you remember some of the lines, Nickelodeon, stuff like that. So why don't you just jump in because I know you got a lot in your mind.
Okay,
so take it away, EV.
Let me start with,
Mm-hmm.
this whole thing is brought about, and we've talked about it. 2 or 3 guys have said this is soccer royalty. But this whole thing is brought about by privilege, right? Yes, their privilege as soccer royalty was earned, but just because you've earned privilege doesn't mean that you're allowed to call the coach and react to everything he says because you don't feel your son or your daughter is being treated right. Privilege doesn't give you the right for the mom to call one set of people and the dad to call his buddies who he played with, who are now administrative people. Okay. This reeks of, as John said in the last episode, Escalade soccer, right? Mom calling the director of coaching from her Escalade, bitching about the way her kid, boy or girl, was treated.
Yep.
Okay. On the world stage, I feel that the Reynas have relegated the United States to the kids' table forever.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And as Roland said, Greg Berhalter had actually made some big strides this last World Cup, giving us some chops internationally, and the Reynas have relegated us back to the kids' table, and I'm talking forever.
To what end?
Just like in Sandlot. Okay. All right. That's and you know, here's the other thing. Okay. If you ask any youth club coach, director, or other administrator what the worst part of their job is, what's the answer? Parents.
Yeah.
Parents. Because they're constantly dealing with parents.
That's why I don't coach anymore.
Now, the difference is in most youth club situations, it's pay for play. So you have a certain amount of grace there, okay? Because you're paying for a product, you're paying for a coach to develop your player. But you don't have that at the national team level. I don't care who you are, okay? And Claudio Reyna is a pro's pro at that level.
Yes.
And yet he stooped to calling on his buddies Ernie Stewart and Brian McBride and those guys during the tournament, bitching and moaning about Gio's lack of playing time.
During the tournament when you're playing fucking Holland.
Correct. And Gio played 45 minutes.
Yep.
And you know what? And Gio was good. Okay. Now, Gio was good. Okay. Gio took on some people and beat him on the dribble. But, Gio didn't hit the crossbar. Gio didn't hit the post. Gio didn't make the goalkeeper make a great save. Okay. And, he was good. Okay. And in the immortal words of Hall of Fame football coach Bill Parcells, when asked about a young starting quarterback who had a good game, he said, "Easy now, boys. Let's not put him in the Hall of Fame just yet. Let's let him prove himself." Okay. And at 19 years old, I think that was the role that Gio had on this team. He was to go, he was to learn, and he was to prove himself.
Correct.
Okay. Now, correct me if you guys, and one thing we got to say about this show, just to reiterate to everybody, these are our opinions. Okay. And, you can't have them. These are our opinions. But, if I think Greg Berhalter did Gio a service, maybe Claudio and Danielle haven't thought about this, but would you put Gio in against Iran? They would have broken him.
Yeah.
Okay. In half. Okay. Because Gio's, he's a slender, he's not a get in the trenches kind of guy. Okay.
He's a finesse guy. He's not a
finesse guy. Yeah, he's
yet.
a touch guy, and he's very good at that. But he's not your bull your way through the back line of Iran player. Okay. The first guy is going to go after the ball. The second and third guy are going to hit him.
And didn't
Or in the opposite direction.
Yeah, right. And he's a lot better taking you on than with his back to the goal.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So,
and
there's some technical considerations here.
Yeah. And so yes, that's the first thing. And let me just finish on the parent side of this. Okay. I have a son who was lucky enough to play professional rugby. Okay. Now, Devin is a good rugby player. All right. And I don't know much about rugby, but I know enough to go watch a game and figure out who the good players are. Okay. And Devin's strength on his professional rugby team in Glendale, Colorado, was he did a very good job of tackling and protecting a lead. Okay. Now, I didn't call the South African coach, and talk to him about the fact that Devin Vaughter needed more playing time. Okay. Because you know why? Because Devin Vaughter's a man. Let him deal with that if he wants to deal with that. Okay. I'm sure, Roland, that my mom wanted me to play more at Warren Wilson when I was a freshman, but she didn't call Ben Holden and tell him that Hank had a mustache and I should be playing.
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm, and again, we're older, and I understand all that. The thing that bothered me the most about this whole situation, though, is once again we exposed the lack of leadership at U.S. Soccer. Because as Greg has said, as Raver has said, as Roland has said, as Ryan has said, as everybody said so far, no one took charge of this situation. Everyone deferred it to the investigation of the lawyers that we hired to do the deep dive. What? Are you kidding me? And I look at this whole situation, and again, because I'm older and because Roland and I both had and Greg Deutsch, all three of us had the privilege to play for this guy. And when he ran U.S. Soccer, he did a great job building the game, promoting the game, and growing the game. And I look at this whole thing as a disrespect for the job that Hank did. It's disrespecting Hank and the efforts that those guys put in during 1994. And we had Bill Nuttall on last week talking about this in some ways.
Yeah, no question.
Before all this started.
How many players do you think on the U.S. men's national team roster that played in this World Cup had less minutes than Gio? Total number of players on the roster that had less minutes than Gio in this tournament.
Over under 10.5. Over under 10.5.
I say 6.
Okay, Greg.
6.
Deutsch
10.
says 6. Raber.
I said over under 10.5.
Okay, yeah.
2 of a goalkeeper, so 10.
Okay, so 10.
I'll say 9.
Okay, and Roland.
7.
Okay, it was 11.
Yeah.
Wow.
11
You don't have any
players.
good players. I mean, I don't know how hard this is.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I'm just saying, like, the other 11 players, we don't have a report of any of their parents calling and saying anything.
That's because their parents didn't have Brian and Ernie's phone number.
Correct.
Maybe.
And that's the privilege I'm talking about.
And that's what he
maybe.
about with more privilege because more responsibility.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I can call Mike Moylan right now. And
exactly.
We'll do that every day.
In life, we've all earned privileges in our business lives or whatever.
Yep.
Okay.
It's really too bad for Gio.
It is. It
He's
is
going to suffer the longest from all
because
this.
it puts everything on him.
Yeah.
Right.
It's really too bad.
Yeah. And
I think he's a nice kid and he's a good player.
Yeah.
He's got skill for sure.
Yeah, but if I'm a middle of the ground Bundesliga player, I kick him every time and say, "Are you going to call your mom?" I mean, I try to snap his tidbit and say, "Here's a phone card. Call your mom."
Yeah.
Like I torture that kid forever, and I'm in his head forever, and that's the problem because he is a kid. He's 6 years older than the 13-year-old I have sleeping next to me in this office.
Yeah.
Like this kid, it's non-recoverable, and it's not his fault. It's a shame. But Roland, I agree with you. It's a shame.
Yeah, Greg Raber, I know you got some things you want to talk about too. So why don't you tell us, what you want to share with us?
Yeah, so I mean, he and I coached together for a long time, not a long time, but quite a bit. I was in Nashville. We were in the same club. I was coaching at Belmont and helping at Vandy. And my wife, who won a national championship and was the captain at University of Kentucky, was a very good player. And she coached too, but I was on the phone most nights from 8 to 11 every night. And I had 2 teams. E and I had a U13 and a U16 team. And then we're sitting in a coaches meeting, and then we're talking through stuff. And I'm like, "Hey, I'm going to have a parents meeting tomorrow." Fine. E, you probably remember this. One of the parents got all torqued up because I was going to cut kids the following year. Kids were coming in. We were going to cut them. It was the U13 team. We wanted to travel. We were doing all the big tournaments. And one of the parents just started lighting into me. And he was a big-time attorney in Brentwood in Franklin County. And I just looked him straight in the face and said, "Hey, what time is court tomorrow?" And he goes, "What do you mean?" I was like, "What time do you have to be in court tomorrow?" He's like, "What do you mean? I'm there at 9. I was like, "All right, I'll meet you there." And he's like, "What?" I was like, "Oh, I just thought we'd just show up and tell each other how we should be doing each other's jobs."
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
good for you, man.
it's the only job I've ever been fired from, and I was fired the next day.
Huh. By
And
him or by the club?
I took a team in the first 2 years that had merged too, and we won everything. You remember the burn and the chaos? We won everything.
Yeah.
And I got fired immediately because they got pissed off because and now granted I was 24 and wasn't nearly as calm as the way I put it right now, but nevertheless, the message was, I'm worried about the kids, not worried about you. And my wife was astonished. She's like, why are you on the phone all night with parents? I'm like, this is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the only job I've ever been fired from.
Yeah.
And I coach U8 girls soccer now, and Avery loves it, so we're good.
Well, and unfortunately, what this whole scenario is, and we've talked about this before, but this has taken the youth in the United States, the youth club, the biggest problem in youth soccer, and it's elevated it to the U.S. national team level.
Yes.
So we've become, in this country, on the world stage, Nickelodeon soccer, who sits at the kids' table. And it's like, how do you come back from that? And I think we've all kind of alluded to it. And Roland and I talked about this the other day. The only way you come back from this is win the World Cup. And how far down the road is that?
2042.
I know. Roland keeps telling me that, and I'm
Come on.
No, I keep saying it. I'm 42 years old. They will not win a World Cup in my lifetime.
Roland says, Roland says 2042.
Yeah, that's 19 years from now.
Yeah, and you guys are going to have to, I don't know about Roland so much, but you guys are going to have to come to my grave and
oh yeah, I'll be pushing 80.
Leave me the tape.
There won't be tape anymore. We'll have to inject it in your eyeball where it projects. I don't know what's going to happen in 19 years.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just I don't know. The whole thing, it just reeks. Well, it's.
But you know what? I'm going to call what just happened progress. You
think?
In a certain way.
We lost to two teams that could have won the World Cup, right, Roland?
I missed the first part.
We lost to England and Holland. Either team could have won the entire tournament.
Yes, they could have. Yeah. I
mean, there's no shame in that.
No, listen, I thought we were successful. The progress I'm talking about is, the pay for play.
Ugh.
We promoted soccer, or we grew soccer from the top down.
Yes.
Poor kids, they can't afford to play soccer in our country because it's too expensive for a variety of reasons. Distances, equipment, transportation, single parents.
Yep.
And so we started paying to play. And it's been okay. I mean, if we didn't have that system, we wouldn't be where we are right now. Okay. But the closer we get down to ground level where real competitive athletes are at, okay, the closer we get to that, the better off we are. Because I tell you, the rest of the world, most of those guys don't go to college.
Right.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah.
Half of them don't even have a high school degree.
No, yeah, they're done it. Germany's the only one that does any type of progressive job until they're 14, 15, 16. In England at 12, you're going that way or that way.
Right. So
or you're going to the mill.
Thank God we were able to get started at the top and work our way down. Yeah. Just think if we had tried to do that from the bottom up, we would be 50 years behind still, or 20. So we have to recognize how we got here and why we got here this way. I mean, where are the LeBron James of soccer?
They're playing basketball and football.
That's right, because it's easy to get to.
And the school pays their equipment.
Yes, it's real easy to play football and basketball.
That's right.
Or baseball. It is. I mean, it's real easy here. Yeah. Actually, baseball is a little more difficult than the other two.
That's becoming more and more like this nightmare.
Yeah. And candidly, I have a 13-year-old, like I just alluded to, Roland, like you were talking about. he came to me and said, I don't want to do travel soccer anymore because of the parents, the screaming and everything. He plays football and lacrosse. Now, granted, we moved to Ohio from North Carolina, but he wanted his own thing and was tired of the parents and made that call on his own. And that to me was very jarring. And East talked to him. You can chime in. What do you think? I mean, the kid could be an amazing goalkeeper. I mean, he's a very tall, long, fast kid, and he wants no part of it because of the environment.
Yeah, and and you're right, and that's we've done something wrong, and it's unfortunate, and I guess it'll eventually get fixed, but well, I think Roland, you alluded to baseball, and there is a lot of travel baseball.
Yeah, there is
much more than there used to be,
and year round.
Yes, and it used to be a school sport. I think I think the difference is that, yes, from travel baseball, a kid can, he can still play in high school. He can still play in college. After 2 years in college, if he's good, he's going to get drafted. Then he has the opportunity at that point to make a determination. Do I go straight to the minors, or do I play for 2 more years in college, theoretically get his degree, and then go play pro baseball? And we don't have that right now in the United States because, on one side, I think we do on the women's side because of Title IX. We have the makings of a good farm system for our new pro league for the women and for our national team. That's a whole nother subject for a whole nother episode, because, as the women's game grows more and more, countries are going to figure out how to beat us, because nothing's more fun than beating the United States at anything.
And they are. It's leveling off.
Yes. And so, but my whole, thumbnail reading on this whole U.S. soccer Reyna debacle is, the Reynas, I don't know what they were thinking. So, okay, we move on from there. But U.S. soccer has been exposed as just being, you talk about toothless and feckless and
nepotism.
And nepotism, and just the whole, it's just incestuous, and it's ridiculous, and there's no leader whatsoever, saying, okay, we're going to stop this nonsense. All the parties will be here in Chicago or wherever they're based now. Tomorrow, we're going to have a meeting, and we're going to come out of the meeting, and this is going to be over in 72 hours. Bang, done. No one's doing that because we're deferring it. We're kicking it down the road to law firms and investigations. And on the show that Ryan was talking about with Winalda and Tony Miola, Tony said there are more lawyers than staff at U.S. Soccer. That's a problem.
So my other thing here is that I have a saying, and I use it in business and I use it in life, is hurry up and tell the truth as quick as you can, right? Because it doesn't get any better. That saying was used in a congressional hearing with Duke Energy and Progress Energy's merger that happened probably 8 years ago. And the CEO of Progress said, hurry up and tell the truth as quick as you can. And the thing that bothered me more than anything about this is that Danielle and Claudio doubled down. If he went and said, hey, we're parents, we got pissed off, we're sorry, that was out of line, we have their numbers, we know them, it was shitty, it sucks, we shouldn't have done that, we know better. But no, they doubled down. And to me, that's even more egregious of, you took a step back instead of saying, hey, I had an extra pop, I probably shouldn't have sent that note. No, they doubled down. They kept going. And they kept saying, well, they didn't give Gio the grace that we gave him. Well, these are vastly different things. You're trying to make apples to grenades. Like, it's just totally different. And I think that's the hardest part here, is that they could have diffused the situation. They could have not extorted. They could, whatever the hell they were doing. The Reynas had an opportunity to throttle back, and they just stepped on it because they think they're untouchable. And we're going to find out soon whether or not they are. Sorry, I interrupted you, Evie. I apologize.
No, that's perfect.
I liked it.
All good.
Isn't that how this show works?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, let me touch on a topic that one of you guys just mentioned indirectly. We were talking about high school soccer and club soccer, high school versus club soccer. And the latest happenings in the last probably 10 years now is club soccer. The elite club soccer teams not allowing kids to play high school soccer.
Mm-hmm.
Disagree. Very, very much disagree.
I disagree with that. I get why that rule's in play. I get it. You don't want to get hurt. You're not going to progress at the high school level. You're going to be much better off here and so on. But what's missing is that community.
Exactly.
The community.
Playing for your colors.
Yes.
Yep.
Make me bleed.
Yep.
Yeah.
When I'm playing club soccer, I'm not going to bleed for that team, man.
Yeah.
Because the attraction doesn't generate that.
Yeah. I would
If
say
someone's not paying you, they should not be able to tell you what you can or cannot do.
And I
That's
can't
my
believe,
opinion.
And I cannot believe the ACLU hasn't jumped all over these dickheads.
Oh, I know.
Well,
Both feet.
yeah. Well, okay. Here's the thing, and Roland, you brought up a great point, and I think most everybody here has sons. Okay, there's nothing more important to a teenage boy than being able to walk down the school hallway, and this is my opinion.
puff that chest out a little bit.
Pump out that chest a little bit because we beat our crosstown rivals.
Yep.
That's important. Okay, that's important. That's important for his overall development as a man, not as a player.
Or
Okay?
getting back up the day after losing to your rival and having to face that walking down the hall.
You have to go to school.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Like, and
So
I can say that for sure.
Roland, you probably know these areas. I played for Athens Drive, and we were good. And we beat Cary High my junior year in a shootout, which is crosstown rivals in the first round of state finals. And I remember showing up the next day, and it was the most gratifying experience of my life. No one gave a damn what the Raleigh Caps did that weekend.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, but now, the high school, they've diminished in quality.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
But the worst part is that lack of community. I'm telling you, you're not fighting for your family.
That's right.
Right.
And
Foxhole.
I don't have the answer. I don't know if they should be allowed to play both.
Well, they do it every
they're-
other country. In
They're
England,
opposite times of the year. So why, in most cases? So why not?
and I think it's
Yeah,
okay
why
for a
not?
kid.
Yeah.
I think it's okay for a kid to have a different opinion from somebody else from time to time. That's what education's all about, right?
That's right.
I'm going to play for my coach who's a good guy but doesn't know anything about football when I'm in 13 years old, middle school, and I'm going to play for Roland for my under 13 classic team, and he's great. Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't want my kid to play college sports. He has.
That's
He gets-
another show. I want to be on that show. As somebody who's been dealing with the recruiting process, and my oldest is going to be playing college sports next year, that's another show. Because I feel that way. Like, I feel you. Like, I totally understand. Because you did it, right? Like, at a pretty high level. I did it at a very low level. And I still feel very passionately about the fact that I would much rather he not, although I know like he wants to, but that's a totally different show.
Yep. Sorry, I got off track again. I do
No,
that.
it's fine.
Damn it,
It's
Raver.
fine. We just I'm writing it down as a future show.
Late night ADD. Sorry, man. Sorry.
So,
All right,
Hey,
John.
hold on.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
Bone. We
All
haven't heard from you, Bone.
Yeah, Bone, I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, I agree with some of you guys. I think first, your choice was to send him home on
Which
a plane
ones?
or not.
Which
Number
ones?
one.
Which
And-
ones do you agree with?
Well, hang on, I'm going to say, I think Ryan brought up a good point. The only reason he doesn't go is because of the relationship. There's no doubt. If there's no relationship, you put them on a plan and go. That goes back to the leadership, EV, that you brought up. They didn't have the kahunas to do it. Plain and simple. There's no gray area there. It's black and white. They chose
being
the other
blackmailed.
color. Pardon me? What'd you say?
He was being blackmailed.
Well, blackmailed or revenge, strong words.
Disclaimer: we are also using words that are from the internet. So sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know. CNN.
No, I was helping you out, man.
Everything that's on the internet is true.
I don't know Fox News. Yeah.
I think they should have sent him home. I think they should have given him a year suspension. I think Greg brought up a good point about what you do with the Reynas. I don't know if it's a life suspension, to be honest. I'm not sure what it is. I do think you do suspend them as well. We haven't brought up Cindy Parlow-Cohn, right, EV? No one's brought her name up, right?
Yeah,
That's
because
because she hasn't said anything.
Thank you.
She's the president.
Right?
She's the president-elect,
you guys
right?
walked right into that for me. So that's obviously absent, as you, again, EV has stated. Do you bring Berhalter back? No, I totally agree with Roland. Too much baggage, too much. I mean, the press every time is going to be bringing it up, right, Roland? I mean, that's all they're going to concentrate on.
It's really too bad. It's really too
it's
bad.
going to be a mess.
Not if you suspend him. I honestly think the only way you go through a wall is straight through it and through the fire. I think you bring him back, thumb your nose at everybody. And to Roland's earlier point, he did some good things with these guys. And the fact he got them out of the group with all this mess, to me, is more of a testament. I think this is the flag to stick in and say, no, you know what? This is our program. We're going to run it. Claudio, Danielle, have a nice time. Gio, won't see you for 12 months. Piss off. If you're good enough, we'll bring you back. And then take back control of this program. What do I know? I don't run business.
I only disagree, Greg. I don't think he comes back. I think he's lost the locker room. I think he's lost the respect of the players. I think that's really hard to get back.
What makes you say he's lost the
that?
players?
We haven't heard from the players.
I just think if you say, hey, let's keep everything here, and then I'm calling you out publicly, all the players are like, what? You just told us, hey, everything's in here, in the camp. And then, boom, you're announcing it to the world. Wait
a minute. He was at a leadership conference with the Harvard Review.
Right.
Okay? He was talking about leadership qualities and what a leader does in circumstances.
Correct.
And he had the perfect example. He was supposed to talk about that kid.
I disagree.
I disagree. I think Roland's right here. It's about managing people. It's not about what they need to be successful in that moment. It's the long-term vision. And what he was saying is, this was a teaching moment for that kid, and his parents didn't accept that as a teaching moment. Maybe I'm wrong, Roland, if you read it.
No, I see what Roland's saying. I just disagree with it. I mean, he could have brought up other examples, many, many more examples. And I'm sure Ryan could even cite some examples where he didn't have to bring up and not say Gio's name. That's what I think.
But he didn't say Gio's name.
He didn't say his name.
No, but you put one together, right?
And he also said we have a process in place for this, which is you go to our leadership committee and the skipper, who is not Aaron, some of the other kid, and they talked to him. The skipper talked to him one-on-one. He went to the team, said, I'm sorry, and got back on the field, and he said he did great.
Right.
That's the process. That's our process. That's what an executive's supposed to do.
Yeah, and didn't he have not a similar situation, but didn't they have an incident with Weston McKinney?
Yeah, he got sent home.
He got sent home.
Yeah.
With the caveat that he could earn his way back.
Yeah.
Didn't he? Right? And
he
they
did.
let him. And
he
they
did,
let him.
EV.
Okay, and they let him come back. Okay, and because didn't he get sent home for not obeying team rules?
Correct, and he was being an asshat.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. So, to me, okay, this is the challenge of coaching, right? And I mean, it's no different coaching your high school team than it is coaching your national team, other than the level of play, right? The room is the same. You have to get the same out of your players, and there have to be rules, that are abided to by the team. And if you're not willing to abide by those rules, then we don't have a place for you. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. Doesn't mean you're a bad player. You're just, I keep going back to this, the old Herb Brooks quote, I don't want the best players. I want the right players. Right.
The rules don't change with the stakes, and that's the key. I don't care if it's in a backyard field or if it's on the World Cup. The rules don't change because the stakes change, and that's, to me, it. It can't be a moving goalpost.
I think for me, when it comes to the players, the piece that Tim Ream said on the Indirect podcast when he came out and he said, we dealt with it in camp and we moved on. Like we moved past it, and that's where we are. Like it. I think you have to look at it from the player perspective. They thought it was handled. Now, what do they think about Berhalter bringing it up at that conference? I don't know, because nobody's really said anything past that. But I think, honestly, Tim Ream's way of saying, like, we dealt with it and we've already moved on. They were done with it. Now, this comes out and it's another piece to something that the players probably didn't know, right? I mean, I would guess most.
Yeah, they knew. Yeah. Everybody knew. The locker rooms, everybody knew. And that's why Berhalter should be commended, because this isn't a secret. This leaks through the entire locker room. Everyone knows. Gio's bitching. It's coming through. Berhalter may tell the assistants. They talk with somebody. If you think the players didn't know this was going on, there's zero chance, which is why it's remarkable.
That his parents reached out at that point?
Yes, unequivocally. There's no way.
You think so? What's going on? I totally agree with you, Greg.
It gets back to the Harks thing. Look back at the Harks situation. It's very similar, except they got out of the damn group, which is remarkable.
Yeah, it is. Remember, we didn't even qualify last time around.
Right.
Why do you think it was remarkable, Roland, that we got out of the group? I mean, I was expecting to get out of the group, I'll be honest. And I've stated that, and some people on this podcast thought we would get out of this. So I don't know what's remarkable about it. I think it's strange that, well, I don't think it's strange. I think we should have had a better result against Wales. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So then it's not remarkable. Okay. We should beat Wales. Okay. And personally, we should beat her. We should beat her, tie Iran.
But in light of all of this drama, that rips a locker room apart. And you were asking Roland, so Roland, I'll let you go. I'm sorry I interrupted.
I forgot what the question was. What was the question?
You said it was remarkable that we got out of the group. And
yes.
I'm like,
Yeah. Well,
like Greg said,
remarkable. Look, remarkable is not the word. Okay. Argentina was remarkable. We did very well to get out of the group in advance. Absolutely. There's no doubt. Remember where we were just a year before the World Cup started. Who were going to be the backs? Remember?
Well, Roland, I think you got to look at, who saved Greg Berhalter's job, right? The Honduras game. Pepe comes out of nowhere. We all forget about that game.
Well, you know what?
And he takes that game over, and we get a little momentum. And
then they don't bring him.
Yeah, listen, the last podcast that you guys had, I listened to it. You guys were like 3 hours on there, and I listened for about 45 minutes. Okay.
My wife didn't even listen. It was so long.
God damn it, I forgot what I was going to say. Shit.
That's why
we're talking about hours. I won't forget it. It was something that Ryan said. It'll come back. But listen, here's something that I really wanted to say, especially to you goalkeepers. All four of you are goalkeepers, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
All five of us, actually.
Depends on your definition, but yes.
Yeah.
We all wore different colored shirts.
We wore different colored jerseys than the rest of the team.
Most of the time I had a penny over mine.
I thought the goalkeepers of the World Cup were awesome.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. Man, there was some quality goalkeeping going on there, man. It was good. It was real good. So I want to make sure you guys heard that.
All right, thank you. All right, John Boa, you've been sitting. I know you got a bunch of things you want to let go.
God, First of all,
you.
hi, Roland, man. Guys, Roland Paiva is one of the class, wonderful human beings, whether he can kick a ball or not, and he can hit a fucking ball, too.
Yes, he can.
He can.
And there was this famous indoor team called the Color Tones. They used to beat us college kids to a pulp in the 80s. But what's wonderful about this is I'd forgotten about the Raleigh Flyers, Roland, because another goalkeeper, did Jim DeRose play for you?
No.
No.
David Allred was the goalkeeper there.
Yeah.
Okay, David Allred. Okay, and then Jimmy DeRose came, and his daughter, he named Raleigh because she was born in Raleigh. Anyway, doesn't matter. And I got all this stuff ready to go. But guys, this coaching thing, this shit happens all the time. And the point I think that everyone is making is we failed and how to deal with it at an administrative level, at a coaching level, at every level. It happens all the time. And, we got the quotes running around. Raver's quote. I love that quote too, Raver. EV's quote about Bill Parcells. There's a great story about Brian Clough when he signed Trevor Francis, who's the first £1 million player. And he's training. And week 2, he's training again. And the reporter says to Brian Clough, he goes, when are you going to play Trevor Francis? Or he says, when is Trevor Francis going to play? And Brian Clough says, when I fucking pick him.
Period.
I mean, somebody's got to be the boss.
Yeah.
And, this is a horrible situation, and it's on several levels dumb and very, very, very juvenile. Anyway, hi, Roland. So this could take a little bit, and you guys can interrupt me all you want. But rather than bashing U.S. soccer, because I do that anyway, regardless of whose mom doesn't bring the right orange slices, I want to start out with this Gianluca Vialli. For those of you who do not know who he is, he passed away at 58 years old this week. And fans are always going to like people that bang goals in, which this guy did. And he worked like a bastard all the time in a traditional 4-4-2, Italian 4-4-2, scored tons of goals. But pancreatic cancer at 58, he spent his last, from the time he came over in the 90s to Chelsea. He became a player, then a player manager. And then he died in London last week. But a lot, you YouTubers should get on there again, like we talked about Pele last week. Talk about running off the ball and then taking chances. He's one of only 9 people to win all 3 club European trophies. And he is the only striker. Now, you don't have to know a lot about European football. I almost got choked up there for a second. Sorry. You don't have to know a lot about European football to know that is fucking ridiculous. So we're talking the old European Cup, old big ears, which we call now the Champions League, which, by the way, you don't have to be a champion to be in, and it's not a league either. But in the old days, you had to win your country to get in. Okay? He won that at Juve. Okay? He won what was called the Cup Winners' Cup, which, again, we have replaced with this bullshit Europa League garbage, this UEFA League, Europa crap. The Cup Winners' Cup was you won the FA Cup, the Football Association Cup in your country, also a big deal. And then you went into a tournament with every other FA Cup winner from Germany and Austria and France. Won that also with Chelsea. And then he also won the old UEFA Cup, which we now call the Europa League, which is also stupid. But anyway, big-time player, scored lots of goals. And a class act. I went over to the 97. Di Matteo was wearing Lottos. So I went over and saw the FA Cup final in 97. And Ruud Gullit was a manager. And he was an old Lotto guy. And Di Matteo was wearing Lotto Stadios. So he got us in. And we met all those guys. And, of course, I'm like in the corner rubbing one out looking at these guys. Right?
Well, that's aggressive quickly, but okay.
Just absolute. Di Matteo scored a screamer in the first 30 seconds. Anyway, it's just a wonderful thing. But he came over, introduced himself. How you doing, John-Luc? Are you English? No, not English. But really neat thing. He also finished 3rd in the 1990 World Cup, the worst World Cup ever. But then they made it to the semifinal in the 88 European Championships and was on the all-tournament team for maybe the best European Cup final ever, which we all remember as the Van Basten tournament, right?
Right.
Just a wonderful, wonderful tournament, and also a great video, the tour video for you people, TOR out there. Everyone should watch that. So we could not have a better juxtaposition for a professional, a class, lead by example, as someone said earlier, than John Luca, and he is gone, but not forgotten. They were giving him a standing ovation in Manchester City this morning, which should tell you a lot. But we can juxtapose that against the U.S. Soccer Federation. And I don't want to be too negative because I'm like that anyway. And I don't want to talk too much about this clown show, dumpster fire of self-important, lazy, arrogant, naive, daft, misguided, sycophantic, myopic, Harry and Meghan, Prince William watching bullshit, orange slice, juice cutting, swilling, housewives of Chicago shit show.
We'll leave Amy and I out of it and just talk about soccer.
That are running our soccer in this country. And I'm not talking about U.S. soccer. I'm talking about the U.S. Soccer Federation. And there's a great expression, measure twice, cut once. And you can apply that. Same thing Jerry Seinfeld does with comedy. Think again. What do you think? Think. Then speak. Okay, same thing. Measure twice, cut once. You don't have to tweet something because your little boy is getting made fun of on Instagram, especially if he's playing for Dortmund in the third best professional league on the planet. Okay? So you can translate this however you want. We all have a role to play. It might mean that you don't get to wear ankle socks to training or those stupid Beckham 3/4 Adidas pants that make me want to kill people. Okay? Maybe that's your role. Or maybe
I wear those.
Oh, you should be ashamed of yourself.
And I bet you look fantastic in them.
I have great calves, man. Don't knock it.
That's it. That's what I'm saying.
But everyone's got a role. All right. On this show, our role is being right a lot. And we've all been talking about this a lot for 2.5 years now. How long are we doing this, Mo?
You're precisely right.
Leadership, West Point, from the top. No pyramid, the same things always comes up. And here we go. Now we just get to the point where Jim Rome isn't making fun of us, where LeBron James owns 9% of Liverpool. We are mainstream, ready to go. And these two ladies, these moms, were roommates in college when they played for Anson. Talk about Greg and Claude can't talk to each other. These two ladies can't sort this out. I mean, you're talking about
that's the only reason that she even knew it happened.
It's horrible, right? And she confided in her, so much. For that. So everybody has to make a sacrifice. Maybe theirs was just keeping their mouth shut. Pulisic's parents also played.
Yep.
I'll leave that there.
Yeah.
Both of them. So rather than bashing U.S. soccer with a bunch of adjectives, I decided to make a top 10 list of things that are still better than the U.S. Soccer Federation. Now, I did have a top 50 list. But 40 of them were failed ex-girlfriend relationships. So I narrowed it down to 10. Okay? These are the 10 things that are awful, but are still better than the U.S. Soccer Federation. Okay? You ready, Bone?
I am.
Number 10, social media and television in general are horrible, but still, if you use it right, that's still better than the U.S. Soccer Federation. Number 9, the refereeing. At least we know the refereeing is going to suck. Okay? Anywhere in the world, the refereeing is horrible. We all know that. It's horrible. They can't even use a video recorder now. It's terrible. So throw that out. Number 9, still better than the U.S. Soccer Federation. Number 8, when you get a paper cut on your finger and then you forget and you cut in lemon to put in your tea and you get the lemon juice on your finger, that fucking hurts. and still, it's not as bad as the U.S. Soccer Federation.
Learn how to steep your tea correctly, okay?
Yeah. No. The other thing, number 7, it's still better than the U.S. Soccer Federation is when you break your finger playing in goal and it's raining. So when you tape your fingers together, the tape keeps falling off. So every time you catch or punch the ball, you want to kill yourself or throw up. That's still better than the U.S. Soccer Federation. Number 6, heart disease. Still better than the U.S. Soccer Federation. Take it from me. Roland, have to fill in on that one. Sleeping on your briefcase in the O'Hare Airport on Christmas Eve. Still better than the U.S. Soccer Federation. Stretching on wet grass for that first session of the day in preseason. That sucks.
Yep.
When you're sore and you got to sit on the fucking grass, do that butterfly stretch bullshit, and you smell your gloves and you want to throw up.
After you ran the Cooper
at 4:30 a.m., but nobody ate back then. walk to school uphill in the snow both ways. It's still stretching in wet grass is still better than the U.S. Soccer Federation. Number 3, when you drink all day in Glasgow with a bunch of Scottish guys, and you go out at 2:30 in the morning and you eat the hottest vindaloo curry that they can find at 2:30 in the morning, and then you have to get on a train and go from Glasgow to Edinburgh, and then Edinburgh to London on a train, and all you do is stick your head out the window or spend the time in the bathroom with the worst ring of fire like you ever had in your life.
That's why you look like Johnny Cash right now.
That is still better than U.S. Soccer. Number 2 thing that is better than U.S. Soccer, the Canadian Soccer Federation. And the number 1 thing, and this is me saying this, that is better than U.S. Soccer Federation, the MLS.
Ooh, number 1 was a surprise.
With a
Shots
bullet.
fired. Shots fired.
So now we're going to end with something positive again with my favorite thing ever called the FA Cup, the Football Association Cup, and the timing could not be better because another failure of U.S. soccer is that the U.S. Open Cup means nothing. 89 teams joined. We've talked about this 2 years ago, I think, Greg, didn't we?
We did, and I'm glad
We have
you're
a
putting it up
solution.
because
We have a
I thought this was
solution.
a good segue.
Yes.
Of the upset.
Yeah. So I've got a little segue for you if you want it for the FA Cup. Another conduit to maybe not only educate the masses. So when the New York City, whatever the hell they're called, Metro Star MLS people maybe go play in Vicksburg, Mississippi, that might do something for the game. I don't know. Call me crazy. But, 89 teams joined the U.S. Open Cup last year. And in England, which is the size of what, Rhode Island?
A little bigger than that.
New Jersey.
1,884 teams joined for this rotation. So now we're down to the final 32. So do you guys want to interrupt me and go start on that, or you want to hear some of the names of these teams?
No,
I know.
I want to
I
know
know-
how many pub teams there are.
No,
Amy told me Wrexham got through. Amy told me Wrexham got through.
they did.
Wrexham got through, yeah.
They did.
Wrexham was a big upset. Preston North End,
Yeah.
where David Beckham was sent on loan, which is over by the Irish Sea, is going to play Spurs at home. So that's a big money maker, probably $250,000 for them. Wrexham. Who's the other one? Our boy from Colorado, EV's goalkeeper, Luton.
Luton.
He's going to play
Luton Town.
Wigan tomorrow.
Luton Town.
Yep. And they're going to play Grimsby.
Okay.
Let's see what's a really cool. There's a couple that are still in the mix. Liverpool was fucking horrible, so they got to replay.
That's another show all
They
to
should have
itself.
lost that game.
Fleetwood Town and Sheffield Wednesday both won. They play each other in the next round. Chesterfield, another club nobody's heard of. Boreham Wood and Accrington Stanley.
Accrington
And I can guarantee you that's like you're talking about Cary and Athens Drive High School. There you go, Greg. Right there.
Yeah.
So the point being, if U.S. soccer had any form, semblance, or shape or fashion or anything, and I'm not saying we need a schools column like they do in England and then a professional column. Like Roland said, these kids don't go to school anyway. So after they're 12 years old, they either go back to school full time or they go to a trade school or they become apprentices, right? Or you can go the pro route and you can just, make 2,000 pounds a week playing at Accrington Stanley for the rest of your life, or Boreham Wood or Forest Green Rovers. But we have no direction at all. If we did, we'd have the Open Cups, we'd have the education, we'd have some form of professional MLS, USL. I don't even know. I'm a soccer guy, and it's more acronyms than the federal government. We've said that before. So the point being, it all starts at the top. Cindy Parlow has a set of word. We have people calling each other names on Twitter. It looks really, really bad. My good buddy Klaus, who's the CEO of Werder Bremen, was texting him about a player that I wanted to go over to see him. And he goes, by the way, and he played for Tim Carter at Illinois State. Great guy.
The Real Housewives of U.S. soccer.
Yeah, he goes, Gio has the best reputation here in Germany. He goes, I can imagine what it's been since he's been like from his own players.
Not anymore.
I bet they were just rip, and they play. I think Germany starts again Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
So his welcoming to Munich and places like that is going to be pretty interesting. Anyway,
I would clatter him nonstop and ask him to call his mom.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's going to happen in German. So
Yeah.
that's all I got.
They play
All right, John
Tuesday
Bowen.
All right, boom,
at 10
boom.
a.m.
Bones, segue,
John Boa,
segue.
we got to ask this. Ryan and I know that TNT
Is Dynamite.
is putting on the TST, the soccer tournament, for $1 million to the winner. Have you heard about this?
Never heard a thing about it.
All right, Ryan, good segue to you to jump right in on this.
Yeah.
All right. So this tournament, essentially, there are going to be 32 teams. You pay your way in. The first, I want to say it was 10 teams get in for like $10,000.
This is
Next
like Ice
round.
Cube's league with basketball. It's the same
Exactly.
exact thing.
Yeah,
Same
it's not-
sponsorship, same format, same everything.
Yeah. So it's owned by Chris Paul
Yep.
from the NBA.
Yep.
There's already 4 teams that are in for this first tournament. Hashtag United, Team Dempsey, Club Necaxa. Is that right? Is that how you say that?
Yeah.
And then here's the kicker: Natty SC. So FC Cincinnati Originals that are joining in as well, which is what kind of caught my attention. I already knew about it, but that piece has me really intrigued because I'm interested to see how they actually hang or don't. But it's a 5-day event. It's being played at Wake Med Soccer Park in Cary, right?
That's the old SAS, right?
Yeah.
So they're arriving on May 31st. They begin group play on June 1st. There's 8 groups of 4 teams. Friday the 2nd, group play ends. There's a knockout round on Friday that starts Friday the 2nd. Quarterfinals and semifinals will be on the 3rd. And then on the 4th, there's a $1 million championship.
Wow.
It's boom, 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 right? I'm going to guess it's not going to be shown on TV live. I would guess they're going to record it and do all kinds of things to spread it out and
ESPN Plus.
Well, no, they'll have a streaming deal for sure. I mean,
Probably.
free.
What sucks, Ryan, is that my financial planner is a third old goalie too, and he said stay the hell away from it, which sucks. Will Hesmer said stay away from it, so
Well,
there
I
it is.
My point is, though, I mean, why can't we all just get on the same sinking ship? I mean, we have all. I mean, I have friends that still have kids in the little youth leagues, and I can't even keep up with it. I don't. And now we got tournaments where, like, you guys remember the Gus Macker 3-on-3 basketball tournament?
Yeah,
Of course.
every year.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I mean, we got this conduit already. It's older than the English FA Cup. The US.
Well, but that's the reason that we're bringing this piece up is because this is a way, short of the entry fees, right? If US Soccer wants to make the Open Cup freaking matter, pony up the money and say, all right, we're going to give X number of dollars to the team that wins this Open Cup, and then they can go on to play. Like, the MLS teams have kind of dominated it because of the structure, and right, they should, because their payroll, like,
Yeah.
right. But
It's
like
a meritocracy, yeah.
right.
Yeah,
Well,
but the
no, let's-
payout's only $250. That's the difference, right,
But the
Ryan?
point is-
Right, but make it even
Yeah.
if you don't put the MLS teams or the USL Championship teams in it till later, get all these other smaller clubs that have U23 and U26 teams, the guys playing in the OVPL, the NASL, whatever, and be like, we're going to give $1 million if you can get to the quarter or get to the finals of this event to play in to join the pro teams, right? Like, just throw the money at it and see.
No,
what
I honestly, I think if you want to make it real, partner with MLS, and if you win this tournament and put this money up, you are an MLS team now without the upfront fee, without relegation and promotion in this country. I don't care if it's just soccer, all sports. And there's no skin in the game because you got nothing to lose because the revenue's continuous.
But the point
Put
is,
some skin in the game.
guys, the point is not to bring everybody to Wake Med. The point is to have New York going to Nebraska.
Correct.
Seattle Sounders going to. That's the point. And
Let's go find the goal scorer that we don't have.
The second, and exactly exposing these kids to, like the hockey movie, right? When the Rangers came and played the Mystery.
Right.
Yeah.
Mystery Alaska. It's the same thing. Josie Altidore got found in New York City Central Park. Like, these guys will find it.
But the MLS has a whole nother tournament they're starting. They're hiring loads of people right now where it's a kind of a different thing with Mexico. Did you guys know this?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's called the something league. I can't remember. But my point is, if we live and breathe this stuff, is nobody else thinking about this stuff? I mean, the World Cup's going to be here in 3.5 years. There's a lot of people like General Electric that are sitting around like, we got all this money.
Yeah.
But, again, now it's too late. We should be thinking about this years ago. But, I don't know. I'm so cynical at this point, especially after this Escalade incident, that I don't know what's gonna happen. So
We're going to learn from it, John.
I turned 50.
We might be, but is U.S. Soccer going to learn from it?
Forget U.S. Soccer. I think,
But that's where it all comes down to in the long run. If U.S. Soccer at the federation level doesn't realize that this is a problem, it doesn't ever get fixed.
I don't think
it continues to be a problem.
I don't think they do.
I don't think they care.
I think they look at the FIFA rankings and they say, "Oh, we're number 13 in the world, and we're number 1 in CONCACAF."
We're number 1 in CONCACAF. Yay! CONCACAF sucks.
Yeah, but we're not. Canada is. To the earlier point.
But we are. We're ranked at the end of the year world rankings. We were higher than them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying qualification. Canada ran roughshod over everybody.
For sure.
And this should not, with a country the size of ours, this should not even be a debate. But we don't. E said it a couple pods ago. You telling me in this entire country there's not a kid just smoking balls in the back of the goal in his backyard, and that's the only thing he wants to do, like I said earlier, like Josie out there being found in Central Park? We don't have one of those in this whole country. Instead, we have nothing but middle class to upper middle class to upper class. We don't have a beat on football in this country.
But you also have to get people looking for them. There's
and I'll leave it with this. I got an email while we were on this podcast from my son's soon-to-be high school football coach. It said, your son needs to email me. Here's my number. He can text me. If you email, text, or call me, he's off the team. And he said it out of the gate. And I was like, perfect. I'm here for it.
Fair enough.
Well, anyway, I'm very disheartened.
Well, the interesting part about this whole thing is going to be on Saturday, this coming Saturday, Greg Deutsch and I are going to have a chance to sit down with Hank and get his viewpoints on everything we just discussed. Right?
Yeah. I think EV, this is a big thing for you and me. We've always wanted to do a podcast from the convention. We've talked about it. You certainly have. The goal was to try to do it at a place where we could actually have some beers, have some food, like you've tried to steer the ship.
Yeah, it's the premise of this. It's the premise of this podcast. Is
right.
A bunch of guys sitting around drinking beers, talking, telling soccer.
So we get the former United States Secretary General one-on-one.
Yes. And the former United States Secretary General, there are 3 of us here who played for him.
Yep.
And I would guarantee you, and I'm sure the other 2 would agree with me, this shit would not have happened on his watch.
Yeah.
No, because accountability is a thing.
Exactly.
Yes.
Hey, do you know if Berhalter is going to be presenting at the coaches convention?
I don't know.
There's no. I don't see that.
I haven't, to be honest with you, Roland. I don't know.
But I'm sure he was probably on the schedule before all this shit came down.
Yeah, I think he's got to run away and hide until the investigation's over. He's got to hide, I think.
No, I don't think he was, Roland, because of his contract ending. I don't think United Soccer can plan that.
Here's
Well,
the,
yeah.
here's the
He was
lucrativity of this
he
whole
was
thing.
not- he
They're
was
trying
not
to
on the
fire a guy who
schedule.
doesn't have a contract.
He's on the contract.
Yeah. So
He was scheduled. He presented in 2021, and they didn't have him on the schedule for this year.
Yeah, he's going to be fine. He's going to end up coaching at Cardiff or Starbucken
Right.
or Grasshopper Zurich or something. He's a smart guy.
If we have leaders, he will be the national team coach for 2 years.
So
Well, we don't have leaders.
Well, we're going to find out
Yeah.
because I think this is where you stick your flag in the ground.
I
I
see some
agree with
merit
that.
to
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Give it to
And
him.
you know what? You lose the midfielder, but you gain a generation of players.
Correct.
I agree.
Correct.
I think that's a good place to end tonight's show.
Okay.
And we'll catch it back up. We're gonna have, when we have that episode with Hank on it, we will be doing a whole bunch of stuff leading up to that release. We're gonna try to release all of these shows in pretty quick succession so you can kind of follow up. But we're hitting the wall as far as time goes. We're already over by where we wanted to be by quite a while. So we will catch up with you all next time on the Three Old Goalies. Hope you all had a great night. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us.
Hold on 1 minute, Ryan. I don't want to interrupt you, but I
No,
would
you're
be
good.
remiss. I would be remiss if I did not mention this. Okay. Roland, who's a new guest and the scourge of goalkeepers everywhere, is a unique person in that. And I don't know, there may be some other people in the country that like this, but I don't know about them. Maybe somebody can help me out. But very few people know this, okay, that Roland and the lady that he's married to both played soccer at Warren Wilson College, which is kind of cool in itself, okay? But the cool thing is both of them are in the Warren Wilson College Soccer Hall of Fame, Athletics Hall of Fame. Dude, that's big time.
that's
big time. Her name is Diana Young Paiva. Everybody knew her as Bear.
Bear.
Okay, Bear. Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, I'm sure maybe in another sport or in another school or something that is the case, but pretty cool. Pretty cool.
It is.
Husband and wife both inducted into their school's athletic hall of fame.
I think the Reyna family can say the same.
Pretty
Well, I also want to
not the
say,
same school.
I said it before we started recording. Roland was my first DOC when I was 11 or 12 years old. When I was at the Raleigh Cats before it became Castle. So I remember looking up to him.
Did your mom call him and complain about playing time?
Yeah, I'm pretpretty sure that happened.
Okay.
Yeah. But she didn't have a Cadillac, so it doesn't matter. But no, I mean, Roland, you don't know me from Adam, but I've known you since I was 11 years old, and it was a really cool experience. You ran a really good club, and he and I have talked about it. Like it was really cool, and it's really cool to be here talking to you right now. You did a good job. You ran a good club. You had good coaches. You ran a tight ship. Everybody was good. The team was really good, and the bullshit didn't matter. And it's a shame that's lost.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
Wonderful.
And you too, Eric. Thanks for recognizing
Oh
that.
yeah, man, that's big time. Are you kidding me? That's huge. That's like
my youngest, who's a high school coach, Cooper. He brings that up once in a while.
Yeah.
I don't know many other mom and dads are Hall of Famers at the same school. You know? And he's done some digging, and I think he has found about 4 or 5 couples that are in different schools. So.
Oh, really? But but for soccer or different sports, Roland?
For soccer.
For soccer. Okay, cool. That's cool.
So,
yeah,
That's amazing.
that's neat, man.
Yeah,
Neat.
we're not the only one.
Okay.
Well, Amy's getting in. I am going to be in the dark, so no big deal.
You're going to be there cheering.
Yeah, I'll be cheering for her. I won't get in. She'll get in. I won't get in.
Yeah. So, all right, gentlemen. Well, thank you very much for joining us. As always, it's been a pleasure. As always, we've probably talked about things that no one else on the planet are talking about, and we've talked about some things that everybody on the planet is talking about. So, thank you for your time, Roland. Thank you for joining us. We got to get you back on, okay? And maybe next time we get Bear on, because I would love to hear Bear's
No.
read on all this stuff too. So,
All right.
but all right, and
Thanks, guys.
to our listeners and everybody, check us out on Saturday when we're talking to Hank, because it's gonna be eye opening to say the least.